So this one we're going to be talking about the pre-inspection process. Basically, it all flows back to how are you organizing and setting up your file for when you do go to inspect, because you're probably not going to inspect for another 3 or 4 days, maybe a week. And if you're on a big storm, maybe 2 weeks before you're going to get to that house. So everything you do as soon as you get that assignment is critically important, right? You get the assignment, you go through the insured info, you make sure the names are right, phone numbers, you go through the cause of loss. I can't tell you how many storms I went on where I went to the cause of loss and there was zero coverages and zero deductible on all 100 claims I got. Well, at that point, we didn't even bother. We just went and kept running because they were all that way. But I might get one that doesn't have a coverage on it or doesn't have a deductible on it. My parameters in that claim came to me. Did I have the right price list on it? Is the company header in there? Pre-inspection is super important, and getting that grouping tree in there before you hit save. Because if you don't and you get out and you inspected 4 claims today, your inclination is going to be to go directly to the sketch and sketch that roof and then go over and write all your line items and then say, oops, I forgot the grouping tree. And when you pull that grouping tree in, you just wiped out all of the work that you just done. Eric, why don't you tell us, what about your pre-inspection process, man?
Yeah, I actually think pre-inspection is one of the most important sections because you really, for me, after doing this for 7 or 8 years, trying to balance the mental fatigue of a claim from start to finish, I've kind of gotten good at it. And you don't want to have to do things that are mentally tiring after you've just done an inspection and you're ready to write your claims. You don't want to have to fill in your date, contacted, entered, inspected, your company headers, importing your grouping tree, all your little switches and dials. Getting all those done on the front end makes it way easier when I get back to my desk. My grouping tree is already imported. I might just have to update, when I inspected the claim, and then I can go right in, do my sketches, do my estimate, do my photos, and do my written report, and just keep moving. As opposed to having to lay the foundation and then write. It's just easier to just come in and write. So pre-inspection for me, it's the first thing I do,
Yeah, especially when you're on a storm, right? You
especially when
got
you're on a storm.
claims and you get them all organized. Now you can hit the ground and you get start inspecting, and all you're paying attention to is the inspection, the photos I'm taking, the scope notes, and then you come back and you can sit down at that computer, drink a little water, have a little dinner, and when you sit down, like you said, you're not thinking about, oh, did I do all of those switches and dials? Anything special with you, Matt?
No, I mean, it really is just as soon as the assignment comes in, like Eric said, I kind of jump on it, make sure all that stuff is input, all switches and dials. As we all know, sometimes you just kind of get inundated with work and something can slip your mind, and all of a sudden you're downloading it from the cloud you didn't put over the grouping tree, and then you're kicking yourself for that. Really, the only other thing that I always do is, after I get the assignment, I always look at the notes in exact analysis because a lot of times that there will end up being an additional phone number or some additional information that wasn't included in the loss notice. So always just double check that and make a note if there is anything else. Like,
How
okay,
about you, Mark?
I guess the only thing that I would add on top of that would be, especially when I'm on a storm, what I'll do before going out on inspections is I will look up the property, I'll look at Google Maps, and then I'll go to satellite view, and I'll sketch out a rough idea of what that roof looks like, just to save time on that inspection, so that when I'm out there, I can get my measurements. I don't need to waste time, you know? So that pre-inspection process is really where you're setting yourself up for additional efficiency, just a smooth process.
That is a great thing. So going into satellite view, zooming it in, right clicking so you get the measurements, and literally sketching a rough sketch, not exact, but a rough sketch on a piece of paper. Do you print it out and then take it with you as your sketch?
I used to. Now that I use an iPad, I'll just do it on my
Or
iPad.
do it on your iPad, right? But that's something that's really great. That not that those measurements are going to be exact, but the shape of that roof is going to be exact. And then when you print that and take it with you, now you already have your roof drawing is done. and you just do your measurements. The other great thing about doing it that way is you can see what Xactimate wants. So when Xactimate drops a gable roof in, typically the ridge measurements or the rafter measurements are on the right-hand side. So if you have that piece and you're looking at it, then that's where you begin to start taking your measurements from, where Xactimate is going to actually put it into the program. And again, that makes it more efficient when you're actually on your inspection.
So what I got when I was running day claims, what I would do is, like a lot of you guys, look at the estimate. I'm sorry, look at the claim, right? And then I'd print out the project notes. Then I, like Matt was saying, that I go into Exact Analysis, look at the file notes, because there's going to be some information there probably. Then I go to documents. If there's contractor estimate, anything like that, then I print that. And then I would go and look and see if there was an Xactimate, Eagle View, like if it's a roof claim, I'd look for the Eagle View. If there was, then I would print the sketch from Xactimate, the one page that shows just the sketch. And then if there wasn't, then like Mark was saying, what I would do is go to Google Earth, and then I would do a screenshot, and then I'd copy, import it into Xactimate as important from underlay. And then I would guess, because you can do it and you can figure out pretty much how long that ridge is to their measurement. And then that's how I would put it in, and then I'd sketch it. So I'd have it sketched pretty much spot on, and then I'd print that and take that with me and double check all the measurements, the pitch and everything else.
Scott, you probably forgot about being in the field. You were in the classroom for so long.
No, I've gotten back out there. A lot of it's same as it ever was. I still print off a project note for every claim as my safety blanket, even though, like Mark, I'm starting to learn the iPad and move in a more digital direction.
Right.
And you always had me write all of my notes on the project note for that claim from the moment I call that insured. That way I can make sure everything ends up in my written report, ends up in my file. And one of the things I didn't really realize till I got more claims in is how much that works to keep the insured happy. Something as simple as last time we spoke, you said that your patio dining furniture got damaged during the storm, as opposed to asking them, were there any contents damaged for the 5th or 6th time in a row? Just letting the insured know that you were paying attention to them every step along the way builds their confidence. They're more likely to stay out of your hair. If you tell that information to the desk adjuster, it makes them feel like the whole thing's being handled and they don't have to micromanage or get as involved. And that's just made life so much easier. And I always thought the insured's only call to complain, but since leaving the school and talking to the other students, I am just astounded at how often insureds call to say nice things, and that works its way up the chain just as fast as when they call to complain about you.
I think adjusters get into this business thinking that their job is to climb a roof, when really our job as adjusters is to be able to know everything that went on. So if we know what the insured is saying, and we know what the Exact Analysis is saying, and we know all of those things going into it before we ever get to the next step, it just makes the next step flow that much more easy. And that's the whole idea of VCAP, is just to keep the consistency from the time you get that claim to the time you send that claim in, to the time that claim comes back for you to do revisions, whatever it is, it's just all clear. And you have physical documentation of everything that's gone on in that claim. So it's easy for you to jump around back and forth.